When you look at a woman, what do you really see? Her or your fantasy of her? When you text her good morning, is it care or desperation? When you scroll porn at 2 a.m., are you seeking pleasure or worshipping an altar of pixels? Here's the scandal. Most men today don't love women. They worship them, and worship is always idolatry, always slavery, always a setup for collapse. You think temples are gone. They aren't. They just change form. Today, the altars glow in your pocket. Instagram feeds, OnlyFans subscriptions, dating apps. Billions of men bow every single day. Not in churches, but in silence, in bedrooms, behind glowing screens. They worship not women, but images, curated illusions, manufactured perfection. Every like, every subscription, every desperate DM is a prayer offered up to the false gods of desire. And here's the truth. The God never answers. You believe putting her on a pedestal honors her. It doesn't. It insults her. Because when you elevate her to divine, you lower yourself to servant. You erase your own power. You erase the possibility of equality. No woman can truly love a man she must look down upon. She may enjoy the flattery at first, the illusion of power, but eventually the pedestal turns to a cage for her and for you. Because deep down, she doesn't want a worshipper, she wants a partner. And by kneeling, you've already made yourself unworthy. From the time you were a child, the myth was whispered into you. She will complete you. She will save you. She is your missing half. Every movie script drips with it. Every love song bleeds it. They have groomed you to believe that your wholeness is not your own, but hers to grant. But here is the brutal truth. If you are incomplete without her, you will remain incomplete with her. No woman can save you from yourself. And when you ask her to, you place an unbearable weight on her shoulders. You don't love her, you use her as a crutch. And when she collapses under the weight, you call her a disappointment. It was never her burden to carry. Carl Jung named it over a century ago, the anima. The inner feminine every man carries inside his psyche. Here's the trap. You don't see her, not as she really is. You see your anima projected onto her. She becomes a goddess, a mirror of your hunger, a stand-in for your unclaimed soul. You fall in love with a fantasy, not a person. And when she reveals her humanity, her flaws, her limits, her edges, the illusion shatters. That's when the bitterness comes, the rage, the "she led me on" stories. Number you led yourself on. You worshipped your own projection, and when she failed to play goddess, you condemned her. But the fault wasn't hers, it was yours. Most men aren't in love, they're addicted. Not to the woman, but to the chemical rush of pursuit, the dopamine spike of a reply, the anticipation before a date, the fantasy that maybe this time she'll heal the void. But once the high fades, so does the obsession. She becomes ordinary, human, and you feel cheated. So you start the chase again. Hunting the next fix, like a junkie in a cycle of romantic withdrawals. It's not love. It's not connection. It's addiction dressed up as romance. Every man feels it, even if he doesn't name it. Women test men, not maliciously, not always consciously, but instinctively. She wants to know, is he steady? Is he grounded? Can I trust his strength? When she pulls away, when she questions you, when she throws sparks into the silence, she's not asking for obedience. She's asking for proof. Not proof that you'll control her, but proof that you can control yourself. Most men fail the test. They crumble, they beg, they rage, they fold into neediness or explode into violence. They reveal that their center was hollow all along. Here's the brutal law. If you cannot withstand the storm of a woman's testing, you will never withstand the storm of life itself. She isn't your enemy, she is the crucible. And if you learn to hold your ground without resentment, without collapse, you don't just win her respect, you win your own. Why are men weak today? Because culture tells them weakness is virtue. It praises passivity, compliance, softness. It tells you to suppress your edge, your fire, your hunger. The result? A generation of men addicted to screens, terrified of responsibility, and drowning in self-pity. They think manhood is toxic, so they amputate it. But a man without strength, without responsibility, without vision, is not safe. He's dangerous, because weakness always collapses into resentment, and resentment breeds cruelty. The solution is not less manhood, it's more. Not aggression, not domination, but the steady, disciplined, rooted power of a man who knows who he is. What happens when you worship women? When you collapse into weakness? When you fail every test? Nihilism. The quiet despair of men who believe nothing matters. They turn to porn, games, endless scrolling, not out of joy, but out of numbness. They say, women are trash, or relationships are pointless, not because they're free, but because they're broken. They confuse cynicism with wisdom. They wear bitterness as armor, but underneath, they are terrified little boys, hiding from their own hunger for meaning. Here's the secret. Nihilism feels safe. If nothing matters, then you can't fail. If no one matters, then you can't be hurt, but safety is death. Nihilism is not freedom. It's a coffin lined with irony and apathy. And until you claw your way out of that coffin, you will never breathe the air of real life. A man alone will fall, always. Isolation is the breeding ground of weakness, addiction, despair. But men once gathered in circles, in tribes, in battlefields. They sharpened each other, held each other accountable, carried each other through storms. Today, most men suffer alone, too proud to admit they're lost, too ashamed to ask for guidance. And so they rot in silence, convinced they're unique in their misery. But you're not unique, you're human. And brotherhood is the cure you've been starving for. Every man carries a hidden image of woman inside him. When you don't know this, when you don't wrestle with it, you project it outward. You don't see the woman in front of you. You see your fantasy. She becomes your mother, your savior, your goddess, your cure. You worship her, or you despise her, but you never actually meet her. And here's the tragedy. She can never live up to it. No human woman can bear the weight of your unconscious fantasies. So you swing between obsession and disappointment, desire and resentment, worship and contempt, until you turn inward and confront your own anima, until you integrate it. Every woman you meet will just be a mirror of your own unfinished business. The man who owns his anima is dangerous because he doesn't need women to complete him. He meets them as they are, not as projections, and that makes real love possible. Responsibility is not a punishment. It's the crown of manhood. Not the flashy crown of ego and conquest, but the quiet crown of duty. To yourself, to your family, to your people. Modern culture sells men freedom without responsibility. Do whatever you want, chase pleasure, escape consequence. But what do you get? A life without weight, and a life without weight drifts into nothingness. A real man seeks responsibility, not because it's easy, not because it feels good, but because he knows that without responsibility, he cannot bear meaning. Responsibility is the anchor that keeps you from being blown away by every storm. It's the soil in which greatness grows. What happens to a generation without fathers? We are living it. Boys raised without guidance, without initiation, without the steady hand of a man who shows them how to face the world. Instead, they learn from porn, from TikTok, from video games, from fractured role models who care more about selling courses than shaping souls. The silence of the fatherless echoes everywhere, in prisons, in addictions, in failed relationships, in the quiet desperation of men who never grew up. But here's the hard truth. Even if your father failed you, even if you never had one, you cannot stay a boy forever. At some point, you must father yourself. You must choose mentors, brothers, teachers. You must seek out what was missing and grow it inside your own bones. You cannot change the past, but you can refuse to pass on the silence. Every culture once had it. Rites of passage, the hunt, the vigil, the trial, a line drawn between boy and man. Today, nothing. Men drift from adolescence into adulthood without ever facing the fire. No threshold crossed, no battle fought, no soul tested. But initiation hasn't vanished. Life itself still offers it. The breakup that shatters you, the loss that rips you apart, the failure that forces you to your knees. These are the modern trials. And if you endure them, if you face them instead of numbing out, they can carve you into a man. Initiation isn't optional. It's the law of life. The only question is, will you rise through it or rot in avoidance? This is the end point, the summit. The man who has faced himself, carried responsibility, passed through fire, and emerged scarred, but unbroken. Not the king of ego, not the tyrant who rules by fear, but the king who serves, who builds, who protects. The king whose strength is not for himself, but for those he loves and leads. Every man has a throne waiting, but most will never sit on it. Because to wear the crown, you must first carry the cross. The return of the king is not about power, it's about presence. And when a man walks in that presence, the world changes around him. If any part of this cut you open, don't run, don't scroll away, don't sink back into the numbness. Ask yourself, what kind of man do I want to become? Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, this channel exists for you, for men who are done with weakness, done with distraction, done with drifting. Subscribe if this resonates. Share it if you know a brother who needs to wake up. But more than that, begin. Take the next right step. Speak truth. Pick up responsibility. Seek brotherhood. Face yourself. Because the world doesn't just need more men, it needs men who are rooted, awake and courageous enough to build something real. That could be you. It starts now.